All right, everybody. So I invite everyone for the tune-in session here. We have three presenters joining me today, and they are going to talk a little bit about the topic they chose for their presentation later on. So if you're outside, please come in. It's going to be really exciting in here. So please come in, and you can now join me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, this is a double language conference. This panel is going to be in English because we have foreign speakers, foreign invitees here. So I tried to slow down a little bit, and I'm really, really happy to have you guys here. I think we can start the time and then start the discussion here. So the goal of this panel, for you to get a little bit of an insight of what these excellent gentlemen are going to present later on in their talk. If you're interested in the talk, then this is a kind of an introduction to that talk. So here we have first Marco with me. He's a cloud services architect at NETSCOUT Arbor, and he's going to talk about the state of DDoS attacks later on.
Yes.
Right. So I prepared a question to you, Marco, and we have seen the Mirai botnets and other kind of botnet attacks. These are really massive at scale. As far as I read in the news, the scale can be even more dangerous, even bigger. How big is this capacity, and what can we do about it? What do you think?
Well, we have reached a point where we really have sizes. We see sizes of attacks that are really scary, and they can really compete with, physical disruption attacks. So we have seen attacks over 1 terabit. One of our customers saw a 1.7 terabit per second attack, and this means that this is a size of attack that can disrupt, entire nations or large parts of the infrastructure. So my point of view is now, if I am one of the managers of this botnet and I have this very powerful weapon available, I'm wondering, what do I do with it? Because it's not just a matter of, disrupting the operation of some competitor that you have in some e-commerce website, or maybe just try what happens if I generate a few hundred gigabits. Now I can rent this infrastructure, and I can have political impacts on a global scale. So, and I can generate attacks that have global consequences. So I'm thinking, and I'm wondering, and in some cases the data that we saw showed a slow decrease in the frequency of attacks recently in the last few months. So to me, it kind of suggests that people is wondering, okay, now what do we do? What we are going to use this very powerful weapon for? And it's, it can be a scary prospect.
So do you think they are going to just rent it out on a business purpose, or they are going to try to make major disruption, like even bringing down the whole internet?
I personally, but it's very hard to make this kind of guesses. Personally, I don't think there will be internet scale disruptions. There's a very well-established economy in terms of renting botnets or parts of botnets by the hour. So if you have a few dollars you can spend, you can have it for a couple of hours, and you can have it for 100 gig, and you can have it for 200 gigs. So it's a very well-established economy, and it will continue. Because of the consequences that internet-scale attacks can have today, personally, I doubt that somebody is so motivated to really do something globally disruptive. But you never know, because we live in very strange times.
So finally, are you going to talk about these issues in your talk?
Yes, we are going to show. I'm going to show some numbers about this, and I'm going also to show some suggestions on what the internet service providers community and the enterprise community can do to mitigate this situation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we also have Gábor with me here. Thanks for changing the mic. Gábor Illés, he's a business development consultant at Balasys, and he's going to talk in his talk about identity and access management in the real world. And the question I prepared for you is that we all know that people are the weakest link, right, in a company. And monitoring what they do in a kind of a non-intrusive way is very important. So what do you, at the same time, today's workplace is very diverse. People have to have access to a lot of things. So building this capacity is really difficult. What do you think is the key, most important thing to do, and what is the biggest pitfall one can jump into when implementing such an identity solution? So the best and the worst scenario, you think?
Thank you. So first of all, as you've mentioned, the diversity is one of the key factors, and the constant change. What we have seen so far is that all those legacy systems and all those, let's say, legacy identity management systems which companies develop for themselves, they cannot accommodate the change. And that this continuous change is giving really hard times for the identity governance, data governance, the control, for the audits, and so on. And those key factors, which are definite business needs these days, couldn't be fulfilled because of the lack of the foundations in the identity and access management. What we suggest to do is to go step by step and build these bricks on each other, very well grounded, you know, and trying to find a solution which is suitable for this constant change, and as you have mentioned, for the diversity, which can handle this diversity.
So if you have to name like one major mistake companies do, what would be that one?
Currently, I don't know. I would say that the air condition is not, you know, connected to the identity management, because I would find that guy who turned the AC on and I catch cold because of him. But yeah, the biggest problem, as we see, is at the really basics. Is with, for example, password resets. So companies are spending hours a day, or maybe hundreds of hours a day if the company is large enough, on password resets. They have help desks only doing password resets, what people could do themselves. This could be a quite challenging task to do, you know, to do it properly and to set up. There are self-service portals to do such things, but usually this is a challenge which companies couldn't, you know, step over.
Okay, thank you very much. This is great. Let me go over to Ryan.
Thank you.
So Ryan Amparo, he's a senior engineer at Kingston, and he's with us with a slightly different topic. He's going to talk about physical security. So what happens if someone steals the CEO's laptop? How can you protect against that? And the question I prepared for you is like, basically, no technology can protect you if it's physically taken away and investigated with you know, advanced technology. So in this case, what can be extracted in that? What is the best practice you can basically apply to avoid this kind of scenarios?
Yeah. So with this kind of scenario, normally the default way to protect your data at rest, as an example, is to implement a password on the operating system. But of course, that's never enough these days. That's why if someone wants to have a physical security implemented on a laptop, say for example, then they have to choose a hardware level high security solution. So it has to be a hardware implemented security on the actual hardware that they use. So it's never enough. You can never trust a password that's been implemented in a software type of environment.
So just out of curiosity, we know that you know, encrypted disks and everything should be standard practice these days. But for hardware protection, is there any advanced state-level, very tricky methods that you can physically recover even a protected, hardware-protected disk?
For a hardware encrypted type of component, that's the idea. The level of security is high. there's no way to gain access to the data if it's been properly encrypted and implemented.
So last question is like, what are you going to cover from this in your talk? What is going to be the focus, what you're going to talk about?
So I'll be covering the standards that we have in the industry at present, and also the products that we have that ties in with that industry standard encrypted solution. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So for all of you, thanks for joining us today. This was a very lightweight tune-in for give you an introduction and a glimpse of what these people are going to talk about. I think it's going to be really interesting. So tune in to their talk and see you there. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.